This video talks about something called poverty programming. It's like a set of instructions in your brain that keep you stuck in a certain way of living, just like a person named Chuck stuck in a truck. People usually act according to what they've learned or been told in their lives. That's what we mean by programming. It's mostly in your subconscious, which is like the hidden part of your mind. Let's imagine your mind is a supercomputer. In a computer, there's something called an operating system. It's like the main software that tells the computer what other programs it can or cannot run. Similarly, in our minds, we have this operating system that guides how we think and act. But here's the thing. Most of us didn't choose this operating system. It's like it was chosen for us by the things and people around us, like schools, churches, parents, friends, media, and more. This programming, though, is often like a failure operating system. Imagine trying to run a successful program on a computer designed for failure. It just won't work, right? That's what happens in our lives. When we hear something about success or wealth, sometimes we resist it because our subconscious programming doesn't let us accept it. Success and failure are deeply connected to how our subconscious mind works. In fact, around 90% of our life results are influenced by this subconscious part of our mind, which means we're not even aware of it most of the time. Other people who aren't programmed like us might notice these patterns in our behavior. This programming affects almost everything in our lives, from money to relationships and even how we see ourselves. It's like our minds are stuck in a specific way of thinking, and changing that programming is a big challenge, just like reinstalling a new operating system in a computer. Think of your mind like a really powerful computer. Most of the time, we didn't get to choose how this mental computer works. It's like someone else picked the way it functions for us. This someone else includes lots of things around us, like the schools we've been to, the churches we attend, our family, friends, bosses, the things we see in the media, and even the government. All these things together have shaped how we think and act. This shaping of our thoughts and behaviors often leads to what this speaker calls a failure operating system. It's like putting a program for failure into a computer system that's already set up for failure. And you know what? When you do that, the computer can actually run that failure program. In our minds, it's similar. The way we're programmed can influence how we act, even if it's not helping us succeed. Imagine if you have a computer that's used to failing and then you try to put in a program for success. It's like trying to use a success program on a computer that's set up to always fail. What happens? You get an error message. This is similar to when people hear about ways to become wealthy or successful. Sometimes their minds are so used to thinking in a certain way that they resist these ideas. It's like their brains won't let them accept these new success programs. Success and failure are like two sides of a coin that come from a part of our minds called the subconscious, which I like to call the automatic mind. It's like a hidden part of our thinking that works without us even realizing it. This automatic mind drives around 90% of what happens in our lives, but we're not consciously aware of it. It's like it's running in the background, doing things automatically, and we don't even notice it happening. People who don't think the same way you do can actually notice how you think. It's like they can see the instructions in your brain. Sometimes, when we hear something new or different, our first reaction is to push it away. It's because it doesn't match what we're used to thinking, our paradigm. Our minds resist new ideas because they clash with what we already believe. Let me explain with a comparison. Back in the late 80s, computers used to have different systems like the 8086 or 8088. When a new, better software system came out to use it, you had to remove the old one, which took some time. You had to keep inserting and removing floppy disks to install the new system. It was a long process to change the computer's way of working. Similarly, our minds can be hard to change, just like those old computer systems. Back in the days, computers had different systems, kind of like how our minds have ways of thinking. When a new, better software came out for the computer, it didn't work with the old one. To get the new system, you had to take out the old one, which took a lot of time. You'd have to wake up in the middle of the night, keep putting in these disks, just to use your computer the next day. Now, think of our minds like those computers. It's hard for most people to change their way of thinking from a failure operating system to a success operating system. It's a bit like uninstalling the old system and installing a new one in your mind. That's why it's important to keep learning and taking in new information that helps change the way we think. Eventually, here's what happens. When you see someone who's amazing at something, like Michael Jordan in basketball or Tiger Woods in golf, they make it look super easy, right? It's because they're running on a different mental system, a successful one. But these mental systems don't just affect sports. They affect everything in our lives, like our money and our jobs. The tricky part is that it's uncomfortable to change this old way of thinking. It's like we're used to it because it's been around for a long time, even from our family, like from grandma. Changing it feels strange and uncomfortable, but it's essential for us to grow and succeed. You know that uncomfortable feeling you get? It's because lots of people around us, like our parents, family, teachers, and even those we look up to, have given us a way of thinking that's not really helpful. It's like they've given us this mental programming that doesn't really serve us or help us help others. Here's something interesting. Ever noticed how some people who are failing at things make it seem like they're doing it effortlessly? They're not waking up saying, "I'm going to mess up today." It's just that every move they make seems to mess things up. That's because of their mental programming. This mental programming, let's call it poverty programming, is like a way of thinking that makes us believe we're meant to be broke or unwell. It's like it's been put into our minds by society. And guess what? As long as we're running this program, we might end up feeling sick, broke, misinformed, or scared. Sometimes even all of those things. Now, why would society want us to feel this way? Because it's easier to control people who feel unwell, broke, confused, and scared. But here's the thing. We need to recognize this mental program for what it is. You know, it's important to figure out where these ideas come from. Let me explain. When politicians promise to fix income inequality but don't deliver, how do we know they're not telling the truth? It's because income isn't something that just happens on its own. It's the result of creating value for someone. So, if there's inequality in how much value is made for different people, there will be income inequality. They want us to believe that successful businesses are only successful because their owners are bad people. But that's not true. Actually, the ones spreading this idea might be the ones doing something wrong. Sure, there are a few businesses and owners with bad intentions, but that's not how most businesses work. Business is generally about doing good things for others. You know those movies, especially the ones about superheroes? I really don't like them. They're not my thing at all. But let me tell you why. These movies, they kind of annoy me because they tell stories that affect our thoughts without us even noticing. Take Superman, for example. He's portrayed as an orphan from another planet, and his enemy, Lex Luthor, is super rich. Then there's Spider-Man, another kid with family troubles, fighting against the Green Goblin, who's a billionaire. Now here's the tricky part. These movies have two stories going on at once. One part is obvious, what you see and hear. The other part is sneaky, trying to make you feel something deep down inside. It's like a hidden message suggesting that being wealthy means being bad. It's funny. I might know what you're thinking because I'm pretty good at figuring things out. Okay, so you're thinking about Batman being rich, right? I kind of knew some of you were thinking that. Batman was indeed wealthy, but here's the twist. He didn't have any superpowers like the other superheroes. You know, like flying or having special abilities. Now think about it. Would you rather have a cool car or just fly? But hold on, I can't get into that discussion right now, even though I really want to. I'll talk about it later, I promise. Now, I can almost guess what else you're thinking. You're probably saying, wait, Iron Man is rich too. See, I'm sort of reading your mind here, remember? But here's the thing about Iron Man, he's kind of rude and takes advantage of people. So whenever they make a superhero that's wealthy, they usually give them some not-so-great personality traits. Let's talk about the Black Panther for a moment. You see, a lot of us felt a bit disconnected, so when something was related to Black culture, many of us supported it. But here's what bothered me about the Black Panther movie. They showed this idea of worshiping ancestors. Instead of giving credit to the God who created everything, they put a focus on worshiping our past family members. Black Panther was cool. He was smart, rich, and strong, but they added that worshiping ancestors part to confuse things. But here's the thing I want to tell you. Our main identity shouldn't be based on our skin color, our gender, our education, or even the money we have. It should be about the fact that we are all saved by God. I'm not primarily defined by being Black. I'm defined by being redeemed by God. Remember what Martin Luther King said? He dreamed that people would be judged by their character, not their skin color. But nowadays, it feels like we're just judging based on skin color, which isn't what he wanted. Very time we agree with something just because it's associated with being Black, even if it's not the best, we're basically going along with the ideas that once oppressed our ancestors. But you know what? The most crucial thing about us isn't the color of our skin. Personally, I really like being part of the brotherhood, you know? I enjoy the cool vibe. But imagine this. If I were white, I'd appreciate that just as much. Why? Because I'm made exactly as God intended me to be, and I'm not competing with anyone. Here's the thing. I can celebrate you, and it doesn't lessen me. I can celebrate myself, and it doesn't diminish you. If you believe that me celebrating myself somehow takes away from you, that's not my problem. And if I think your celebration affects me negatively, that's my problem to deal with. Let's talk about James, Jesus' brother. When he introduced himself, he didn't use titles or positions. He simply said, "I'm a servant of God and Jesus Christ." That was his main identification. If it was good enough for someone so close to Jesus who played a big role in the church, it's definitely good enough for me as my primary identification. Our minds have been influenced a lot by the government and media. Did you know that back in the 1970s, Hollywood started to criticize businesses? It happened so subtly that most of us didn't even notice. By the time an average American turns 18, they've seen about 10,000 people getting killed in movies and TV shows, mostly by business people or entrepreneurs. Surprisingly, they've witnessed more of these killings by business folks than even by career criminals. It's no wonder that many people these days prefer saving the planet over going into business. They've been deeply influenced by these stories. Here's the thing. None of us are born with ideas. Everything we believe in comes from somewhere. It's essential to check where our beliefs are coming from before rushing headlong in a direction that might lead us off a cliff. The results we see in our lives are often automatic, generated by our minds without us even realizing it. So, if I want different outcomes, I need to reprogram my automatic thinking. It means I have to consciously change the way I think and be fully aware of what's influencing me. It's crucial to understand the source of our thoughts and beliefs to create different, more positive results. In Genesis chapter 1, there are 4 levels of value. The first level is all about using your physical strength or muscles to get things done. Sometimes we rely too much on using our muscles over time to make money, and that's why some folks end up having financial struggles. Now let's talk about wealth. It's kind of special because it's not something physical, like a rock or a tree. It's more like something spiritual because it can be in more than one place at a time, and only spiritual things can do that. Have you ever thought about what really makes money valuable? It's not because there's something super valuable backing it like gold or diamonds. The real value comes from the message printed on it. For example, think about a $100 bill and a penny. Even though the metal in a penny might be worth more than in a $100 bill, the message printed on them is what matters. The $100 bill represents 100 times the value of $1, while the penny is just 1% of a dollar. That message is why the $100 bill is way more valuable. But wait, there's more. Money is also valuable because we all believe it's valuable. Our trust and belief in money add to its value. So in short, money's value comes from the message it carries and the faith we have in it. That's why it's so important to us. Think of language and faith as spiritual things. They're not something you can touch or see like a rock or a tree. Now, wealth? That's spiritual too. But muscles? Well, those are physical, like your arms and legs. Time, on the other hand, is something we only have a limited amount of. Now, here's where things might get tricky. Imagine trying to use your physical muscles and limited time to create something unlimited, like wealth. That's like using a physical thing, muscles, multiplied by a limited thing, time, to create something unlimited, wealth. It's tough, right? No wonder it's hard to make a lot of money this way, and it might explain why some folks struggle financially. Moving on to the second level of value, which is about managing things. You might have a job where you manage stuff and make a decent income, maybe between $40,000 to $250,000 a year. But if a company's paying you a lot, they often expect a lot from you. They might not care about your personal life, like your family events or important moments. Now let's talk about the next level above managing, communication. It's where things start getting more interesting. If you're working in a field that involves a lot of communication, like selling cars, you might make around $100K a year. But if you're into things like acting, singing, or creating movies or songs, your income might jump sky high. Like, you could earn up to $100 million a year. This is because at this level, you're using communication and imagination, which are way more powerful in creating wealth. These are people who come up with the best idea, or the resource you use. Here is your mouth. You've got to have a mouth. You've got to learn how to use it. Pretty much everybody here qualifies for the first part. Now you've got to start working on the second part. And then your mind, the resource you use up here, or your imagination, or your mind and your money to make money. When you do that, this will take your life to a whole nother level. You've been taught to follow a certain path, work hard, get an education, and land a good job. But what's missing is how to actually excel in these fields. For instance, in business school, they don't teach you how to sell. If you study law for many years, they focus on teaching you about law but not how to find clients to practice law for. And if you spend years becoming a doctor, they teach you how to fix bodies but not how to attract patients. This programming, this way of teaching, leaves out key skills for success. It's like you're trained for the job but not for the real part of making it work or finding clients. This setup, this way of teaching, makes it harder to achieve financial success. That's why I say, if you're struggling financially, spending time watching TV might not be the best use of your time. Instead, investing that time in reading and learning new skills could make a real difference. Many people dream of being successful or watching successful people. But here's the thing, rather than just watching others succeed, I'd rather be the one people are watching. It's about shifting our mindset from just observing success to actually living it. This whole system, this way of teaching and learning, has been set up to keep people financially struggling. But your family deserves better than that. Don't let these cultural teachings hold you back. There's more potential inside you than this system allows you to see. I recommend you watch the next video in our series. Don't hesitate to share this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.